Welcome to the first video in a new series of tutorials on digital drawing, an introduction to digital drawing. And this is going to be using Photoshop. So I have this document here as a little graphic. Here is the main toolbar on the left, which thank goodness over the 20 plus years I've been using this, it hasn't changed all that much. There's a few new icons and tools. But I think the way I have this laid out here, we're going to go through just the basic workspace. So you have your shortcut keys on this dock will help a lot. You should take your own notes as you learn this program and become a shortcut keys Photoshop ninja in the early stages using the simplest of the tools, which is the layering system, which I believe Adobe is one of the first to do the layers in the palettes, and doing some movements and selections with the Marquee Lasso Magic Wand, how to use Control T, your free transform tool, rotate your canvas to your drawing angle, and then use the brush eyedropper eraser, and we'll get a little bit into the dodge and burn tool. Later lessons I'm working on still for some of the next steps for what you might um, try out first. So let's take a look at this one first and just look at the interface in Photoshop. Okay, so when I first go through any software, I like to look at the first, the file menu. So everybody should be familiar with software. So if you're an artist and just your first time using really software, it's worth spending just a few minutes and remind you that you should have a shortcut key for most of the pull down menus up here in the top left corner of most software. So in Photoshop, Control N is new, Control O to open, the close, Control W for this particular one, save, Control S, save as, Shift Control S. So those are the main ones. So I'm going to open, save a file, do a new doc real quick. I usually use those two. And then as I'm saving, Control S. And if I want to save as a different naming convention, because as one of the powers of digital, you could save multiple versions. So, we'll do this one. So we'll do File, Save As, and let's see if I'm going to go in and look at my drive here, and we'll go into digital drawing. And so if you're new to my channel, you'll know you'll be able to find playlists in various topics. So if you're a veteran, you'll know I have videos in game design and character design and construction, modeling and animation, level design, game scripting, game design 1. I have other specific videos for Unreal Engines. These are some of the other ones. So I'll do some 2D pixel art, 3D environments, do some props and vehicles. Definitely going to do some more concept art and development. And so look forward to some of these lighting materials will be big. We'll do some substance and we'll light it in both Maya and Unreal Engine and then go through some sound and audio as well. Although I'll bring in some of my friends in the audio world that are professionals. I dabble in just so much as to get stuff done. It's important to note also I have a key visualizer turned on here, KeyViz, so you should be able to see everything. And I usually start off saving as a Photoshop file, so I'll do that for my first save. And maximum compatibility, you don't need to see that anymore. Show that, don't need to see that again. So if I go File, Save As, and you'll see there's a copy there as well. So the file type that you're using for Photoshop right here is pretty limited when you're doing the regular files. It's just a Photoshop, large document, PDF, Photoshop PDF, and a TIFF file. And not to get into all the file types right away, but if I do save a copy, I'm going to get the full range that you normally would want to do a JPEG, a GIF, or a PNG file. And I think we don't really need to get into Targas or, well, hey, there's a substance file. Didn't know. I guess I should have known that they're getting there. But yeah, so just to let you know, if you want your layers to show up, you want to do that, save. So if I go in here to edit to the next one, so that's just these first ones here I think are important. There's also print, Control P is another shortcut key you should know when you're using any kind of digital applications. Edit, same thing, Control Z is usually your undo. Sometimes Control Y does the redo, in this case it's Shift Control Z, because Control Y is like an older legacy usage for Photoshop, so it didn't update. Cut and paste, Control X, Control C, I'm sorry, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Copy merged is useful as well. Searching Control F is usually the shortcut keys to search through and find and within most documentation applications. Fill is a good one, actually Shift F5. although I like the Alt Delete or Control Delete to fill with your foreground and background colors. And free transform, that's the big one. So if you want to manipulate pixels on your screen, we're going to look at the Control T. So I'm doing this in the first video so that we do all the shortcut keys that are most important. Your mode, sometimes you'll get stuck in grayscale and accent and wonder where your colors are. So you usually want to be in RGB. And adjustments here is the other ones. Control L for levels, just to bring up your lights and darks and play around. Control L and Control M very similar. Hue saturation, Control U, and to invert color balance, not as much. Don't use most of these as nearly as much. Invert your selection. Control I is very useful. And to do match color, I love the match color powers functionality in Photoshop. So yeah, let's also look at the layering system. So new layer is Shift Control N. So Control N does a new document, Shift Control N does a new layer over here. And then a lot of times you could just click on something you want, hit the delete key on your keyboard. Grouping is Control G. Merge down is Control E. These are all just as a pull down just for the different layering system. So let's go to the next phase of this, which that's your basic pull downs that you would have for opening files, saving, undoing, printing, things like that. The main toolbar though is right here, so I'll pull this out in the middle here just a little bit so we can see a little bit better. So the move brush, if you hover over the top of this, is going to be V. M is for marquee, L is for lasso, and W is for the magic wand. So these four of the first icons are the ones I really want you to focus on. So if you have this, you'll see those four right here. Move, marquee, V, M, L, and W. That's the moving and selecting pieces right there. So you'll notice on the top of the notes, I didn't bother to put the Control N, Control S. I just kind of reviewed those for those that are completely new to software, but I don't think it warrants being repeated inside the Photoshop interface. Um, the brush settings we will get into as well, which is F5. So F5 on the keyboard will pull, open, and close the brush palette, which has all of the different awesome brushes in Photoshop that we're going to use. I'm going to leave this as the default. We'll load all the custom brushes a little bit later. So let's look at the other palettes over here. The workspace you see is the first heading on the notes in here. So it says workspace. So that literally has a pull down underneath the window right here. So if I go to window, you'll see arrange and workspace. So arrange, we can move things around if you have a lot of images on your desktop or inside Photoshop. But workspace, if you ever mess things up real bad and can't find your palettes and don't know where anything is, then you can go to window workspace and go back to the essentials default. We might get into painting later, but I'm just going to leave everything as default just so we get into the main tools here for the first part of the video. So that is overview of the interface, as well as let's look at the layering system, which is Control N for the new layer, Control J to copy a new layer, Control E to drop a layer. Now you have the layers inside the notes over here. So if I were to make that bigger, and you see if you right click on here, you'll have this, but this is the Shift Control N new layer, Control E to merge a layer down, Shift Control E to merge visible layers. And there's a few other ones down here. You might use a blending options, but for the most part, it's just those ones which I have in the notes for you. So you don't have to go down here for most part here. Right there, there's your new layer button, create new layer. So if I do that, it's going to make a new layer. When you do the layer, if you click on it once, it's going to highlight the layer. If I do it 2 times slowly, go 1 and then 2. Usually if I do it in the right succession, there we go. I can get in there and I can name the layer. So I'll name this layer Marquee, Marquee. And if I did this one here, if I double click it fast enough, if I go in here and double click the icon, it's going to actually pull up the layer style. I'll get into this for graphic designers. This is a really big deal. This gives you all of your, the most used effect in graphic design ever in the world, of course, which is your drop shadow, right? Everyone loves a drop shadow or double emboss. So if you want to do icons, buttons, hover overlays, and a lot of the cool things you could do in there, I'll have a video just for doing that. But let's go ahead and stop this and we'll do the next video on using the marquee tool, which is M for marquee. Go into the marquee layer. It is possible to click off and have no layer selected too. I discovered at the hard. So if I want to fill this with something, I can't. Or if I want to draw here with the brush tool, nothing. It gives you nothing. You got to make sure you have an actual layer. So if I click off of this, you can quite possibly have nothing selected. Control A will select all. It does everything in the canvas, and Control D will deselect whatever you select. So if I go marquee to select something, right, like this, Control D will deselect it. If I go to the next one, lasso tool, and I go around like that and hit Control D, it will deselect it. So Control A and Control D in the selection portions, I should have those added back onto the notes. So there we go. We're updating the notes live. So we now have Control A, select all, Control D to deselect all. So you don't want to go up here and stop what you're doing. Go up to the pull down menu, click on the pull down menu, and go down to what you want. Those are just such critical shortcut keys to know. You can move around the palettes as well. You can grab these. I think when I defaulted, I had the layers palette was down here, split down below here, but you can grab these and you can move them around. So if I want to take the brushes off the brush setting and put it over here, I could put it next to that one and it'll lock in. I can then grab that palette out again and I can even bring it down here, put it underneath like that to have it split in the two sides, and I can bring that back in here like that. And once I get a workspace that I like, you go Window, Workspace, and so you can save your workspace. So go New Workspace, and we'll call this my digital drawing. I always use underscores as a habit drawing workspace, and we'll go 2025 just for my own records. And we want to make sure we capture the menus, toolbar, locations, and any shortcut keys that we change on there. Okay, so I'll see you back in the next video. We're going to go through actually playing with the layers, the marquee selections. We're going to select some stuff, move it around, and we're going to make some art using some simple geographical shapes.